Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
You're listening to Serious Privacy, powered by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kay Royal and Paul Breitbart.
These are the dark days of summer where allegedly nothing happens, except of course in the world of privacy and data protection, where always something is going on. And we'll bring you the news, from legislative developments in Latin America and the Middle East, to the ongoing fake news battle between a Brussels technocrat and a Silicon Valley tech bro. My name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy. So, okay, unexpected question. If your pet could talk, did we do this one already? If your pet could talk, what would they say?
Please feed me. I'm hungry. I want something nice. Give me a treat.
Higgins is pretty chill.
I mean, Higgins is a Labrador. Labradors always want to eat.
They want to eat and they want to run on the beach.
Mm-hmm. He does.
Nice. Very nice. Ours would say, get me out of here. We're ready to go. I swear my one cat has lost half her body weight. She's so skinny now. Everybody's stressed out being in the same household. I haven't lost half my body weight, so apparently it's not stressing me.
Or you just respond differently.
Yeah, my daughter's thinking, if that's the gauge, let's not talk about it.
For cats, it's let me out of here, and then as soon as you let them out, please let me in, right?
Exactly. They'll be coming back over to Daslin's door, meowing to get back in as soon as they can escape our house. Exactly. That's what it'll be. But our house is almost done. Hopefully we'll get word this week that it is finished. It is so done. We're already getting people delivering stuff over there already because it looks like it's done. So, yeah.
Nice.
Let's talk about a few things that happened this week.
Sure. So yeah, let's start with a few legislative updates, because apparently the midst of summer is a good moment to adopt legislation.
Apparently.
Shout out to Luis Montezuma.
Always.
For keeping track of all these updates. But apparently Paraguay's data protection bill from 2021 has been revived. It was supposed to be dead, but suddenly the Chamber Committee on Science and Technology has requested that the Chamber passes the data protection bill as amended by the committee. So that is back on the table. It's an update of the existing legislation. Paraguay already has data protection laws, but this is a nice update. Also in Chile, an update is underway. The Data Protection Bill 2019 is close to being adopted. I believe the House had already adopted, and it is now tabled in the Senate for approval. And should then move forward to publication. And then we also have an updated law in Israel, where the long-expected Amendment 13 was adopted and earlier this week also published in the official journal. And this would mean that the legislation in Israel will be closer aligned to the GDPR, including obligations to appoint a data protection officer, more transparency obligations for data controllers, but also alignment in terms of some of the basic terminology. So the definition of personal data instead of personal information, also alignment of sensitive personal data. And finally, the law will also have more powers for the data protection agency that ensures that it can also impose financial sanctions.
Way to go, Israel. And I know that we're also seeing some movement in Malaysia's act. We've been looking at the Personal Data Protection Act being updated. I think it's got some updates like adding in a DPO and other things that we've been watching for a little while for those updates to go through. I think they're expecting those amendments to pass later in just a few months later on this year, but we've only got, 4 months left, 3.5 months left, 4.5 months left.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever updates we're doing this year, people, let's get them done. Got to happen. I mean, why would we slow down just because it's an election year?
Well, it's only 19 weeks until the end of the year in any case.
Right. But I am making no predictions that there's no time left to get anything updated. Y'all know me, and this year apparently just write me off. Not happening. But the Illinois BIPA, the Biometric Protection Act, is also being amended. So we're seeing a lot of amendments and updates to different laws. So that's really good. But in addition to amendments and updates, we are seeing some enforcement too, which warms the cold little chambers of my heart. I like seeing the enforcement. I mean, not that I want people to get in trouble, but let's be honest, people. The more some of these other companies, none of us, of course, but some of these other companies, the more that we see enforcement actions actually come through that are usually pending for a few years, the more we can learn what it is that regulators are actually looking for. This one, however, has not been pending for a few years. We mentioned last week the Texas settlement with Meta. This week, or I guess it was actually yesterday, General Ken Paxton, Lord help me, Attorney General Ken Paxton sued General Motors more for the cars collecting the private data and selling it to several companies, including insurance companies. So he's going after them as well. I think this is signaling a little bit of a shift to say, hey, we have a privacy law, but we're not actually suing them under the big privacy law. We are actually going after them over some unfair and deceptive trade practices as well. But I think it signals a move to taking privacy and data protection seriously. And we've got a few other key enforcement actions that are happening as well, right?
Yeah, but let's not forget, I mean, the Texas law entered into real application only very recently, and it takes time to conduct these investigations under a law, just like people expected the European data protection authorities to start imposing GDPR fines on the 26th or the 27th of May 2018. That also did not happen because you also need due process. It takes time to investigate when you have the legal competences.
We just assumed they were stockpiling these complaints, and...
Yeah, but you cannot do that because you can hardly conduct an investigation under legislation that isn't enforced yet. At the very least, you need to make the determination.
Right.
Yeah, and you need to make the determination whether any of the alleged contraventions of the law are still happening the moment the law is enforced. Yeah. That also takes time. You need to provide the party under investigation with a chance to respond to any of the claims that they are non-compliant, ideally before you issue the press release. So that takes time. So I'm not surprised that Texas would use unfair and deceptive practices in this case. At the same time, I do agree it is a very clear indication, hey guys, we are also starting enforcement on privacy and data protection issues. And now we have this new law, so you better watch out. You better think twice.
Yep.
We will find out who's naughty or nice.
Yeah, you think we're bad right now? Just wait.
Exactly.
Yeah, love it.
And we have all these nice new competencies that are coming and that we can use now. And don't worry, we will.
Exactly. Now, you've had a lot happening on your side of the world this past week. So pretty significant thing.
Yeah, and it is not even just on my side of the world. But yeah, sure, there are a few things here in Europe. The Dutch DPA concluded after some random checks of the use of AI chatbots that there is still a lot of personal data being shared with the chatbots.
Y'all need to stop that.
Yeah, you need to stop that. But for example, a GP practice where an assistant entered patient data into the AI chatbot. Another company where a whole bunch of customer data was uploaded to the chatbot as part of training data. That is not something that should happen, and certainly not without the appropriate safeguards and contracts in place.
Well, right, because let's be honest, anything you put in online is going to a third party. I heard someone say recently, it's not like we're uploading anything to a vendor or a third. If you put it online, it is going to a third. It's probably going to lots of third parties, but it's going to a third party. People, make sure you're in alignment with your company's practices, if not the law.
Exactly. So then we go to the UK, where the ICO has put social media and video sharing platforms on notice for over poor children's privacy practices. Also,
Yep.
no big surprise there. The ICO has put out their children's code and the children's code strategy, so they were always going to start enforcing. They have their own tech lab that has reviewed 34 social media platform and video sharing platforms in recent months and have concluded that at least 11 of them do not meet the requirements of the code. And Emily Keeney, the deputy commissioner, said in a press release, there is no excuse for online services likely to be accessed by children to have poor privacy practices. Where organizations fail to protect children's personal information, we will step in and take action, end quote. They have not released the names of these platforms, but you can imagine that these would be the likes of TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, the obvious companies. Not saying that these are the 11 that have been warned by the ICO, but such companies are being looked at, and I expect more to follow there.
Wasn't there something that we saw in the news last week about some sort of, not the Patreon one, the Patreon lawsuit to settle for $7.25 million, that it violated the Video Privacy Protection Act for targeting with the Metapixel? That's not just last year, people. The Metapixel thing is still an issue, but I think I saw something about how there was some sort of behind the scenes secret deal between Google and Meta to target Instagram ads to teens on YouTube, bypassing Google's own rules for what they can and can't do for minors and what they've been getting in trouble for. These were pilot programs here in North America, Canada, and the US, so at least they weren't in Europe, or at least they haven't found them in Europe yet. But I mean, this goes along the same thing as, talking about CSAM and trying to prevent this. You have to take it seriously when it's minors, people. You just have to.
Yeah, this was reported by the Financial Times, indeed, at the start of August. And the publication reports that Google directed ads to a subset of users labeled as unknown in its advertising system in an attempt to disguise the group skewed towards teenagers, which indeed is not in line with Google's own rules.
Right. Is anything really unknown to Google?
No, but I mean, that was the way they tried to hide it. It wasn't really unknown.
And we didn't fall for it, right?
I think this is what you call known unknowns.
No, the great known unknown.
Yes,
exactly. But it is serious. But, oh my goodness.
So let's take a look in Denmark, because there the Danish Data Protection Authority has criticized the family court for a lack of processing security. The family court has reported 28 data breaches between January 2023 and June 2024. The court unjustifiably passing on information about protected names and addresses, other information that could potentially reveal a person's whereabouts, including a stay at a shelter. And in most cases, the information was passed on to the other party in the case, which of course should never happen.
Of course it was.
Now, this is interesting because the GDPR does not apply to the courts acting in their judicial capacity. And the question is, of course, would this qualify as the court being in their judicial capacity, or is this still the court in their administrative capacity, given that these are the files that are also part of procedures before the court? In any case, the court has decided to report, and the Danish DPA now has said, well, you really need to step up your game where it comes to security, and we will scrutinize. So there are no sanctions in place or something like that yet, but it is an interesting one to monitor.
It is, and I'll throw in here well, let me add this personal story real quick. Talking about that, back when I was working at the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law at Arizona State University, setting up and running pro bono programs, one of the programs, and it had nothing to do with legal pro bono, but it was adjacent to what we dealt with. So we dealt with a lot of child and spousal abuse cases through the Victims Legal Assistance Project. And I started working with one of the law students that was a year behind me, who happened to own NextCare Urgent Cares across Southwest United States. And I worked with him to develop a process where abused women and children who come into the urgent care center, since they are usually very dependent on the abuser's insurance and therefore his ability to acquire the records of the abuse, to give them free care and to set them up under separate medical accounts. And if let's say the wife wanted to come back in a year and request her medical records to do something with it, she would actually have to specify, and please include my separate account for so-and-so and so-and-so. That way nobody could force her to release medical records as well or rely on a general release. It would have to be specified. And to give him credit, I love John Shufelt. So big shout out to John Shufelt. To give him credit for this was really, really tremendous. And so when I later worked at Concentra, we tried to do basically the same thing, to be able to give necessary care to abused women and children. And so you can imagine that protecting those records were huge. So I can see where records like this, anybody can see where records like this could be highly, highly sensitive and sought after by the abusive party.
Yes, of course. That looks like the obvious thing. And I understand that the Danish DPA has some concerns here and has asked the court to step up their game. Another interesting case from Europe. This is not really a data protection issue. This was reported by Political Europe this morning. And that is a fake cyber attack that is now being used. So fake data breach. The Polish anti-doping agency has been subject to claims of hackers that documents were leaked, linking the country's biggest sports stars to banned drugs and medicine and things like that, which
fake news.
Just the week after the Olympics is already pretty remarkable. And allegedly then athletes who participated in the Olympics were also using these banned drugs. And indeed, the Polish anti-doping agency has said this is fake news. These are not documents that come from us. There have been no anti-doping tests on the days that were alleged in the documents that have been presented. So it is all fake news. And the anti-doping agency even goes further and says this is a state actor that's been hacking us or claiming to hack us, probably pointing a finger towards Russia.
Unbelievable.
Then what I already alluded to in the introduction, we have an ongoing battle between a European technocrat and a Silicon Valley tech bro. In this case, Thierry Breton, the European Commissioner for Industry, Services and Digital, and Elon Musk, the owner of X and also some other companies. But in this case, it is all about X. X has already been under investigation for DSA, Digital Services Act, violations for a while, for spreading fake news and for not doing enough to moderate content. No surprises there since Musk took over. But earlier this week, Commissioner Breton sent open letter to Elon, again pinpointing to the requirements to avoid dissemination of fake news. Interestingly, he did so hours before Elon Musk was to interview Donald J. Trump, the Republican presidential nominee and former president of the United States, on his platform, basically as a way to endorse him. So the timing of this letter was, at the very least, remarkable. Suspicious, remarkable. You can take your pick. Even more remarkable is that this letter had not been cleared by the rest of the European Commission. So this was the Commissioner Breton acting on his own. Some go as far to say that this is part of him staking a claim to continue in the same portfolio under the new European Commission.
Got it.
Showing that he's not afraid to pick a fight with big tech. Musk has responded on X, obviously.
Guess that's the way to show it.
Yeah, and was not impressed. He said, well, if I would have been impolite, I would have responded with a meme. I won't repeat the meme. You can find it on X. Let's just say it was not very polite.
I thought all these schoolyard fights were supposed to stay at the school.
Yeah, but since then, Twitter was developed, and that was in part still okay. And now it has become X, and it has become a lot worse.
Can you imagine how hard it is on the youth nowadays? I mean, think back when we were in school and younger, if school bullying and all these schoolyard fights actually really did continue on social media when school was over for the day or the week or for the school year. And yet it all continued.
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, there was no social media where the bullying could continue, but indeed, it does happen nowadays. And it's interesting that you mention it because it is a topic I'm reading up upon, because this is the topic of the panel that I'm chairing during the Jersey Global Privacy Assembly, to talk to members
Yes.
of the Jersey Youth Assembly about the impact of social media and their right to privacy, their right to data protection, their perspective on it. So the voice of the new generation. And I'm really looking forward to that discussion. Also talking to some
And their right to mental health, let's be honest.
yeah, and indeed, it includes mental health. I'm also talking to some people here in the Netherlands that are a lot younger than I am to get their perspective. Also trying to convince some of them to come onto the podcast anonymously to share their perspective.
Oh, nice.
But I'm not sure yet whether they would be comfortable with that. If they do, they will come on.
We did talk about doing that when we first started. That's right, didn't we?
Yeah. And if they do, they will come on without their name or without affiliations, and just to make sure that apart from their voice, there is nothing that could identify them, to also protect them.
Yeah, I would think so. I think that would actually be a really good session to have for people to hear from kids what kids are actually thinking about social media or privacy. And are they actually thinking about it? Probably not.
Well, some of them I think are, but it depends on context.
Yeah.
No, Dad, no, Mom, I don't want you monitoring my Instagram. That's private.
That's one aspect of it, right? The other is, yes, I'll share everything.
It is one aspect.
My daughter just posted an invitation to my grandson's birthday party on Facebook, and she included her phone number in the photo invitation to RSVP. And my first thing was, why'd you post your phone number in the photo? But okay.
Haven't you learned anything from me?
Right. And she's probably thinking I'm only sharing it to certain people, or who knows who she's sharing it to. And she's listening to me talk now. She'll probably have some rationale and explanation as to why she considered this and thought it was appropriate. And some people do consider it and decide to share it anyway. And some people just never think about it.
Yeah, well, just remember, there was this girl in the Netherlands about 10 years ago who posted an invite to her birthday party. I think it was an 18th birthday party on social media. This was at the time of the Project X movie. And in the end, more than 10,000 people showed up and there became riots out of it. So
wow.
Just one public Facebook invite.
I don't think we're in danger of that.
You never know. Be careful what you wish for.
All right, continue. Sorry, that was a side note.
So that's it for Europe, but there are some other things still ongoing. Again, shout out to Luis Montezuma, but he posted a case from Colombia. Apparently, there was a judge who concluded in his ruling that he had used ChatGPT to support him in drafting the ruling.
Yes.
So we have the American lawyer using cited case law that was thought up by ChatGPT. Now we also have a Colombian judge who wrote his ruling using ChatGPT. The Constitutional Court of Colombia now notes that AI cannot be used to replace logical and human reasoning. On the contrary, it would violate due process. So this decision has been thrown out.
But it could be used for punctuation and grammar.
The court doesn't rule that out, but at the very least, I would say that a human review after you have used the ChatGPT would still be relevant.
Right, to make sure that you haven't been misinterpreted. Exactly.
Exactly. And while speaking of courts, Oren Kerr, law professor at California Berkeley Law, has posted a case on X from the Fifth Circuit in the US, ruling that geofencing is a search, and warrants to search for geofence records are inherently unconstitutional. Also very interesting, because that could mean that all internet warrants are unconstitutional by this reasoning. Basically, the court explains that if you want to create a subset that is geofenced to a given location, that would mean that you would need to search all of the information available in order to be able to create the subset. Basically, a similar reasoning to the GDPR. A filter is a data processing operation, and if you do not have a legal ground for that, then you cannot create the filter. In this case, the court says, well, geofencing warrants present the exact sort of general exploratory rummaging that the Fourth Amendment was designed to prevent. In other words, creating a geofence search warrant would be a fishing expedition, and that's not allowed under US law. Very interesting reasoning, could have very big impact. So I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up at the plate of the Supreme Court in the next session.
Yep, absolutely.
One more update going to South Korea, where Kakao Pay is criticized by the financial supervisor for handing over the personal data of 40 million users, 40, to Alipay without consent. And the Korea Times writes about that Kakao Corp owns Kakao Pay, but there is also a tie with China's Ant Group that owns Alipay. So basically the Korean payment provider is an affiliate of Ali, and somehow they centralized their payment information into a single database. In any case, there was no information to users, no consent to users requested. Kakao Pay also says that was not required because all the data was encrypted, so there was no requirement. However, the newspaper writes that actually consent was required because Alipay is an overseas entity, and therefore it is a data transfer which is subject to consent.
Right.
So it is the question what kind of consent was needed, but it is clear that the consent wasn't there. The funny thing is that the header in the Korea Times says Kakao Pay handed over 40 million users' data to Alipay without consent, column FSS. I read that as FFS, but FSS is the financial supervisory service. But you can imagine if you read FFS that it would also be very relevant in this context.
Right. For goodness sake. Yes, it would be. Oh my gosh. Well, just to pick back up and maybe close us out is just to give you an update on the TikTok. As we told you, it was going to be appealed as soon as the law was passed. Yeah, it was already filed the same day, I'm pretty sure. This is the one that says TikTok can't do business or they have to sell.
Yeah.
So, and 21 states are urging the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia to uphold that law that bans it. It's my understanding they're not even seriously going down the route of looking at being sold, which they would not be able to complete that even if they did start early enough. But I don't know when that is scheduled to be heard. I don't know that I've seen that yet, but they are actually saying, please uphold the law. So you've got, nearly half the states in the United States going, yeah, please uphold that law, which
I can imagine.
I'll just say it's a little surprising.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So what else do we have? Anything else to close us out with?
Yeah, there is. And actually, the Washington Post is reporting that some progress is being made in one of the AI cases. This is the class action lawsuit brought by a group of artists against Stability AI and Midjourney for violating copyright by using their images to train AI image generation tools. And in a 33-page ruling, quoting the Washington Post right now, U.S. District Judge William Orrick dismissed some of the artists' claims, but left core parts of the suit unresolved. And that means that the case can proceed to the discovery phase, and thus that it will actually move forward towards a judgment at some point. So all the initial discussions are now over. Orrick has previously dismissed the bulk of the lawsuit, so they have amended some of the case to make sure that they actually could move forward. So apparently the judge doesn't agree that Stability AI and Midjourney violated the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, but the fair use discussion is up for discussion.
Agreed. And I'll just close us out with an ad. I don't get any money from this, so it's not an ad from me, but some colleagues of ours, Olga Mack and Adrian Go, produced a book called Product Counsel, Advise, Innovate, and Inspire. It is available at productlawhub.com. In this, they address the roles of product counsel, which is becoming increasingly a beloved role, but it means you have to know a lot about a whole bunch of things. And so in this, they address the different areas of expertise that product counsels need to have, and part of that being privacy. So I thought it was very well done of them to write this. Love the book. I've read it. It's fantastic. If you're looking at a resource like that, happy absolutely happy. If you didn't pick up the link from there, just give me a holler, but we'll put a link in the show notes as well, so you have that.
Absolutely. Product Counsel, advise, innovate, and inspire. Let me warn you, this is not a cheap book.
I honestly haven't looked at the price.
The Kindle edition on Amazon is $169 and the paperback $214. And on that expensive note from Kay, we'll wrap up another episode of Serious Privacy. Join the conversation on our LinkedIn page. You'll find us under Serious Privacy. You will find Kay on social media as Heart of Privacy. Don't look for her phone number. You won't find it. You'll find me on social media as EuroPaulB. Until next week, goodbye.
But not his phone number either. Bye, y'all.
That was Serious Privacy.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No, that's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on Nimity research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.